Hello, people. Is it on? Yep, it's on. Okay, good. So today I'm going to be coloring Nightcrawler. It's drawn by Tom Rainey, I guess? I don't know. I just saw it and I picked it up. Oops. Fit there. Multiply. There. Now for the long boring part of flatting. I don't suspect that anyone's going to show up because Mike Miller's having a stream, and so is Elliot Fernandez. So more than likely, no one's gonna show up here. But whatever. Got to do this anyways. Might as well stream it. Hey, DJD. Couldn't see your name really quick. Yeah, it's the best clicking show. Oh, this is why I need someone to talk to, because I suck at talking to myself. You're thinking that surprised me. Yeah, to do this, you sort of need a little bit of psychosis, I think, to just sit there and talk to yourself, or someone built in already. It makes excellent background music. I know, is mouse clicking ASMR? Yep, 0 are watching. That's across 2 platforms, mind you, too, so that's pretty impressive. No, according to YouTube, you guys don't count. You know, you guys can join the Hangout or whatever I have open. If you want to, that's in the description. And don't make fun of Tumblr. Tumblr is a wholesome place nowadays. There's no more porn on it. Only crazy people. And I think Mundane Matt and Razorfist.
Dragon.
Hello.
I don't know.
I just did all that clicking and then it reset itself. Damn it.
What are you working on?
Nightcrawler.
Is it like a commission?
No. I don't get commissions.
Hmm.
I'd take a commission if someone gave me a commission, but I don't get them.
Hmm.
You
I'm gonna have you. Go ahead.
most people do commissions, they're gonna do the colorings themselves, so, you know.
I commission you for some Elven Knights.
Do that. If it's just coloring, I don't draw.
Oh.
Yeah, see?
Oh, whose drawing is this then?
This is, Tom Rainey's, I think?
Oh.
I don't know, I just found it on, Twitter.
Then I'll give you some drawings of mine to color then for him. I wanted to be lazy. Now I actually have to draw. Damn it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is if someone's gonna commission an artist to do something, they're gonna do the entire thing. I try to do one thing a day to, put it up on Twitter.
Hmm. Good process. I draw at least one thing a day. Some days my drawing is passable. Some days it's like I'm in third grade again. So I don't always have the skills on point that day. Yep.
Hello, Abriel. Yeah, I used to draw, but I don't draw anymore, and so I could relearn, but I don't have the resources to relearn it.
That's
Because I
rough.
need a lot more paper, and
I tell you what I did. I went and cause I used to be broke when I was in college, and so I'd go to like Kinko's, there for like the old FedEx offices, and
steal all their paper.
well, no, because I would just buy printer paper, right? And that was my sketchbook. Was just a brick of 500 sheets of printer paper, and that was my sketchbook just to use because it only cost like $6. Like, well, it's about the same as a sketchbook, but I get an extra like 200 sheets of hundreds more sheets of paper out of it. So
Yeah, it's also nice and doesn't have the whatchamacallit, the lines on it.
yeah. So that was my sketchbook for many, and I still is. Like when I need to burn through a bunch of rough sketches, I just do it all on print, like on 8x11 printer paper. So, um, do you ever ink anything?
I'm even worse at inking than anything else.
Oh
Even
yeah.
when I did draw, I sucked at inking so much.
I don't mind inking to a point. I'm recently started using the Copics because I was still using the old Rapidographs from like the 90s,
Mm.
and they were okay. Though the Copics seemed to flow out of the pen a little bit easier and lay a little bit smoother than the Rapidographs would. Though, I mean, usually they cost a bit more too, though. So that's
Yeah, they're
another
like
thing.
$15 a thing, isn't that right?
Uh, I want to say like for a pack of 3 is like $20 or something like that, or $25. I know I paid like 35 for a pack of like 7 or 8 or 6 or 7, so they're not cheap, but you can get, but they're worth it if you really need some good inks. Then I was thinking about saving some money up and trying to get like a tablet, but because I've never tried to make digital art outside of, I don't know, 20 years ago with old Photoshop.
Yeah,
So
if I was to, if I get a tablet, if I could ever get one, I'd need one of those, one with the picture on it, the screen. Otherwise, I could never probably pick it up. So, and
I mean
that's extra expensive. So,
they have you mean the tablets when you draw on it, it doesn't show it what you're drawing on the screen, or do you
yeah,
mean like?
yeah,
So
yeah,
how do you know what you're drawing? On the computer?
yeah.
Like
If
on
you're
your
doing it on a
monitor?
computer, you're just supposed to like sort of figure it out.
Huh. But yeah, so you like to look down at the work instead of looking up at a monitor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to look at the damn monitor the entire time. I have to look. I have to know where the pen is going.
Yeah, I
That
feel
would
you on
drive
that
me
one.
insane.
Just waiting for the next day or two. My Jabba the Hutt sail barge should be arriving from Hasbro. Cannot wait.
Is
I,
Nightcrawler's tail blue? Or is it black?
I
Do you
thought it
remember?
was.
I think it's blue.
I can look it up real quick. 1 second. What did I just do?
I think it's blue. Because it
Yeah, I
has.
think it is.
Why would he put material on his tail?
Yeah, his tail's blue in the comics. So. I always hated that they changed his story back to he's like half demon. I kind of didn't mind the whole Mystique being his mother, but I don't know.
Isn't she still his mother? Or.
Yeah, she still is, but they changed his father from a European aristocrat to a demon of some kind, if I remember correctly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that she was. I thought he was always just half demon or whatever.
I know
I
he had
gotta throw my
teleportation.
cat. He's sat on my lap and I could no longer move him.
I don't remember exactly how, because I got out of X-Men once they started after Age of Apocalypse, and then I kind of like I started college, so I couldn't really afford it. Right as the Onslaught crossover happened, in I think 97, 98.
Yeah, it happened around
Which
then. I
I
only
tried to
know
come back.
that because of Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah, I never really got back into it. I tried to come back into it, but so much had changed so quickly. I was like, oh, well. So,
Yeah, I was
never,
never into X-Men that much, so at least
uh,
not the comics. So I don't have a good reference base for remembering the colors for them.
uh, I was big into the comics. I was a fan of Mr. Sinister, and then they totally destroyed his character in the comics. And, I was like, all right then. But I was getting more into Star Wars anyway, because that's back when the Power of the Force 2, all the action figures on steroids for Star Wars were coming out in the 90s. And I was like, it really got me back into the Star Wars feel. And then the prequels came out, and I was like, kind of.
Yeah, everyone says that there's so much hate with the original prequel, and I'm just like, well, it came out and everyone hated them, but I don't remember there being a lot of hate.
It wasn't as focused now because there was no social media like we know back then. Like, there was, I mean, mostly people didn't like the fact that everything was too CGI, and uh, they used way too much slapstick humor in it, which,
Well, a lot of people didn't like Jar Jar Binks, but
aka the slapstick humor, yeah.
I didn't find him
I
too bad, but
He's
definitely
actually not
weird.
terrible if he doesn't have to bounce around and act like some funny jerk off who keeps getting everything into trouble. He's like, it's what happens when you mix Shaggy and Scooby into one character. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, I like the theory that he was supposed to be the overall big bad guy.
Oh yeah, nah, well, cause like let me think. See, before the canon got rebooted there in 2013, uh, they didn't really talk about him too much. They showed him frozen in carbonite though during the Force Unleashed games. And so no one really knew what happened to him. And then I kind of was hoping in Force Awakens we'd see him like, because I always wondered what would if we saw him later on as like an old shaman of his people who had learned from his mistakes and stuff like that, and was trying to teach the younger to be better.
Well,
Which
have
is
you
kind of
seen
how,
that theory that he's like? Have you seen it all explained out? That
yeah, he's the big bad. Yeah,
yeah,
Darth Jar Jar.
yeah.
He doesn't need to be a big bad. He already is the big bad, man. Jar Jar Binks is the original senator who agreed to forward the position of power to Senator Palpatine, which he make him and Palpatine the founders of the Empire.
Yeah.
So there's no real reason to have him be a further big bad. They
Well,
should just make him like
that explains like why he did it though. No.
well, I mean, no, because they were gonna have they kind of conned him into it from earlier in episode 2, which I'd be much more rather to see some of the Jedi that were still alive had returned, but they did away with any chance on any of that with not really. Well, see, they didn't really explain a whole lot in Force Awakens, which was okay because it was a little side story of where Luke was at. But Last Jedi should have really explained a lot more than some dumb flashback where he's trying to kill his nephew. So that was with Luke. Like I would have much preferred him talk about Luke, like the other Jedi I found that were hiding. Because in the comic books, he finds a few other Jedi that survive Vader's purge. He finds one dude that's like half blown away, and he's like, all that's left of him is like his torso and like his head, and all the rest of him was ripped off, and he's like in a half like little ball that rolls around because his body was destroyed.
Well, see,
He
that
finds
doesn't
the
make sense because the thing is that they're supposed to restore the balance of the Force, and by restoring the balance of the Force, they'd have to eliminate everyone else.
well, you gotta realize. Well, back then George still ran the show, and George believed that, if I remember this correctly, when darkness consumes everything, it isn't because or rather, lots of Jedi have to stop the darkness of the universe or something like that, because it the darkness is way big. It's not just a bunch of one or two Sith. The Sith just have this code where they have one or two that follow them, whereas you need more Jedi to help combat it. Because there's entire volumes about how there was an old Sith Emperor who had a Sith Empire and tons of Dark Jedi and Dark Sith Lords under him, and like they crumbled, and eventually Bane created the World 2, where there can only be 2 Sith that are the most powerful. Now other Sith can come up and challenge them as the 2, but on top there's only ever going to be 2, and they're going to wipe out anyone else that tries to take power from them. And then this way their influence can be contained and focused rather than be, because instead of spread out and where they would slowly try to corrupt and overthrow each other when there was lots of Sith around. It was this Sith Emperor called Tenebrae, not Tenebrae, Vitiate, if I remember correctly. It's part of the original Knights of the Old Republic RPG game way back in the day. If I remember correctly, it's a lot of convoluted stuff. That's what it is. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've never gotten through all of Knights of the Old Republic.
I went through when I was a huge Star Wars fan, man. I kept up with it all the way through when the prequels started, because that's when I was in college. I really couldn't keep up with it anymore. But all through the original reboot of the 90s, which took place in 91 when they brought in Thrawn, and then like the soft, what's the opposite of a reboot?
Well,
Soft back grab.
Retcon reboot.
Because they originally rebooted everything in 91 with the Thrawn trilogy, but like as they went along over those next 10 years, they were running out of ideas, or I don't know, they just decided to get lazy and started reaching back into the old novels and comics from like because there wasn't a lot of Star Wars novels back in the 80s when it first came out. There was like 3, and then there was the comic books too. So they went mined a lot of stuff out of the old comics and those cut few novels to bring back into new plot points into the New Jedi Order series, which was okay, but I don't know. I was never a big Jedi guy. I was always an Empire fan, so I was all like, no. Don't die, Thrawn. Oh no, Boba Fett fell in the pot pit. No, I'm sad. No. So, I don't know. I read all the books. Just spent so much money on all that crap. You don't understand, Dragon. I have now. The only thing I didn't really get rid of, because later on, my little cousins wanted to get into Star Wars. I gave them a lot of my original big steroided out. I guess I couldn't really afford it anymore. When I was in college, I was like, oh, that's kid stuff. I gotta move on and get into more manly things like laying sheetrock and drinking beer for no reason.
Oh, you
And
got into that weird idea phase.
yeah, where I have to actually, become a responsible adult. Yeah, let me let you know, that's the worst idea ever. Being responsible,
Well, it's
paying
not about
bills.
responsibility. It's just, well, like those things are for kids. Like, no, it's not. That's for, intelligence. Why
Yeah,
would you like well, why would you go do work if you didn't have to?
exactly. See, that's the thing. When you're coming up, you're like, where? Like everyone's like, where do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. Whoever wants to pay me, that's what I'll do. So it just, I don't know. Either anyway, I got back into it in around. I get back into the figures first and collecting because I didn't read any of the books about how they brought them all. I watched a little bit of Clone Wars, but I really didn't like it because I was really wanting to see an animated series in the OT, and for whatever reason they kept pressing everything in the PT. And
What does
which
that mean? OT?
OT? Oh, you got okay. There's three acronyms. There's OT, which is the original trilogy era. ST, which is the sequel trilogy, which is the current trilogy we're in now, in era we're in now, and then there's a PT, which is the prequel era, prequel trilogy era. So when they brought out Clone Wars and it was a prequel trilogy era, I was like, oh man, like we just had three movies during with Clone Wars and stuff like that. I want to see what happened to the old characters, and for some reason they just didn't want to do it until. So I just collected the figures, and like there was an entire subgroup of people that read the old canon and made little photo novels with our figures of new movies and stuff, and little stop motion animations with our figures and stuff. It was it was the epitome of nerdness, by the way, but it was fun. So Ryan Miller Art's like, there's always a reason to drink beer. It's
Yeah.
it's 6:32 in the morning. Time to crack them open. Shh.
Yeah, I've never heard of the whole PT prime uh definitions of time.
Oh yeah.
I've only heard of the um what's it, that planet that died? That's what Aldebaran, not Aldebaran. The one that they blew up.
Yeah, Alderaan. You've
Uh,
heard of BBY and ABY.
yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it means the Battle of Yavin. Before the Battle of Yavin or after the Battle of Yavin, because that's what they consider the pivot moment in the history. Uh, I mean, like I said, I was into it so much. We were making our own fan fictions. I was going to Star Wars conventions where there were no Star Wars movies coming out. Like celebration had 4, 5, and 6 started, and then it had 1, 2, and 3. And there weren't any movies coming out. We were just going to celebrations to, have fun and talk about Star Wars. And everyone, of course, the only animated actual on media stuff was the Clone Wars. And then I told you how there's a prerequisite beer is the best to maximize your buzz. Yeah, yeah, we, oh man. So we waited, and then when the figures came out, and I kept getting collecting, and then they tried to bring out the 3D. The 3D attempt flopped though. When that flopped, Lucas sold it off to Disney, and Disney decided we're resetting all the canon books, and there was a small outcry of people who really hated the fact they were resetting all the old canon.
Yeah, I thought that was
Because
stupid considering how much there was and how good it actually was at some points.
I mean, what they should have done was just say, "Hey, we're gonna do a soft reboot, and we're gonna pick and choose stuff out of it that we like that we can use." Because it was convoluted. It was pretty huge. You had Luke had a child and got a wife, and then you had Leia and Han had 3 children. Um, their kids had grown up like late. Their daughter got married to Baron Fell's son, who was like just a lot of stuff you'd have to cover. Um, so when they reset it, we were like, well, yeah, it is kind of convoluted. We'll say it's okay for now, as long as they don't do horrible stuff. Because we were all like, man, this means the Thrawn trilogy and all the good trilogies of the books that when they first started in the 90s are gone now. So we were like, all right. And then they brought out, what was it? Rebels was the animated series, and it takes place in the OT. And I was like, oh, finally, they're finally doing something in media around the OT era, original trilogy era, and it was okay. It was a solid B. It fluctuated between B plus and B minus certain seasons. It ran for 4 seasons.
Yeah, the whatchamacallit, like I don't think it was a good idea for them to do a soft reboot or whatever, but at the same time, knowing knowing how they actually set up the canon, where it's there's the George Lucas canon, then there's the Lore Keeper canon, then uh, there's like 8 different levels of canon within Star Wars to begin
Yep.
with. So you didn't even need to make such an announcement.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it was just all for a lot of it was for show, and a lot of it was to like, I don't know, see who was on board on different stuff, because like it got unbeknownst to us, it was going to get real political with Star Wars. Like I caught heat that way back. This is way before Ethan or anybody made channels about it. Like me and a few others were just on these we just made little review sites about how the new stories are going and how this and that was. I think it was 2014, 2013, late 2013, early 2014 when we really got to reviewing stuff. We had me and a few other guys on the site doing reviews for stuff. But there was Ryan Miller's like saying, but there was so much promise in Disney's scripts. Visually speaking, I think they nailed it. I agree, right? Because I like Rogue One. I like Rogue One a lot too. I kind of wish they would pay the guys their money out so they could keep using some of the OT designs for some of the monsters and stuff. Depending on which country they got designed in, they have to pay those original artists. Like that's why you don't see like a Hammerhead that much anymore, but you can see some Rodians every once in a while.
Yeah,
If I
I
remember
did try to
correctly.
watch Rogue One and I fell asleep.
Yeah, the beginning of it is boring. The fight scene at the end though might be it's comparable to Return of the Jedi's though. So
Well, fight scenes aren't really a good thing to base Star Wars on, so you know,
maybe
it's
you,
just
yeah,
like
you.
Star Wars isn't really known for fight scenes. It's known for it's mainly known for its sci-fi effects and the fact that its lore is follows the hero's journey. That's mainly its 2 things that it's really known for.
Yeah, no, I like the space battles. That's kind of the reason I collect in the toyetic aspects to some of the battles. The battles are a big thing for me on it too, because
Oh, you're talking
I
about a space battle. Yes, they're known for space battles too, but
yeah I don't mean like regular fight scenes where they're sitting there fighting each other in the street and stuff. That's boring too.
yeah, someone was like, "This has great. The Last Jedi had great fight scenes." I'm like, "What? What the fuck are you talking about?"
I mean, there was one halfway decent one that had a few mistakes in the throne room, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not even gonna talk about the Last Jedi right now because I just start getting angry. So
Yeah,
I'll just say
I'm not even a
it.
fan of Star Wars majorly, so and I saw The Last Jedi, I was like, wow, this is garbage. I literally was ranting for like 2 or 3 hours after I saw that movie.
See, with me, it was like when I went and saw Phantom Menace. Like when I first saw Phantom Menace the first time on opening night back in '99, I came out of the movie like, well, I saw Star Wars again, and numbness was like, let me get back in line and see it again. Because I didn't get to see the originals. I was just slightly a little bit too young to see the originals in theater. So I went back after 3 or 4 viewings of Phantom Menace that day. I was like, this is okay, I guess. Not that great though. When I went to go see other Star Wars films, like I liked Attack of the Clones, even though it has that sappy love story in it. Um, and then when Force Awakens came out, I went and watched it. I knew immediately, oh, this is awesome stuff. It's a lot like New Hope, but I can roll with it. Rogue One, pretty beast. And when I watched Last Jedi, I was like, I had to watch like I came out of the theater and it didn't hit me that I wasn't as impressed. I was like, let me go see it again. And so after I watched it 3 or 4 times, I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I usually have to watch something 3 or 4 times to see if I really like it or not. Because usually if I like something, I'll like it immediately. But if I don't like something, I'll second guess myself. Like, did I need to see that again? Was there something else I didn't catch there? Like, I don't know.
Well, with the Force
So,
Awakens, it's like it's competent enough to say that it isn't horrible, it,
yes.
but it's not a good movie by any stretch of the
I
imagination.
mean, yeah, it's not like groundbreaking cinema or anything like that. No.
It's literally, well, we want to go here, so we went here, and then we need to go here, so we went there. There's no like connective tissue to anything.
Yeah. See,
So
I would have preferred Surge showing something in Star Wars that we haven't really showed that much, but I mean, it's something like because Bray is on the hero's journey, right? And she's trying to help Finn. I would have preferred one of them like go to search for Luke, and like instead of just having a map instantly go find him, like there was a trail of stuff they had to go do, and like kind of like Indiana Jones, where they're triggering traps in ancient Jedi temples and stuff like that. I would have kind of liked to see something like that.
yeah, it needed a lot more stuff in there. Like there's like, oh, we would need this, and then they went and found it. Like, and it's not like they just went and found it. It was just the next thing that was there.
Yeah, I yeah, it was too. I don't. JJ likes to wrap things up quickly. I see the thing I will say about Ryan Johnson. He made a long Star Wars movie. Now, unfortunately, the writing was well. I'm not going to get into it. Let's just say I like long Star Wars movies, and his was the longest ever of all of them, like 3 hours and some change. Um, I just wish that.
He didn't write it to be hated. Because
Oh,
that's literally
Ryan,
what he did. He wrote the damn thing to be hated, which means he might actually uh, be be able to do better than that, but he doesn't want to. So
oh, sorry, Ryan. My mic was up high. I'm also got sinus flu, so I'm a little bit under the weather. No, I don't know. I don't know if he wrote it to be hated. He might have wrote it to be hated because he's always talked about how he wants to do something different. And I'm
no,
like,
that's
yeah,
he
well,
actually said that he wrote it. He wanted it to
oh,
be divisive and hated and all like that.
oh, mission accomplished there, Ryan. Mission accomplished. It was, I don't know. I could take some of that junk if it wasn't going to have him, and then I don't know. Mark Hamill was talking about it. He's not going to talk about the next movie now, but he gave an interview in some magazine a couple days ago where he wants to do something, and him and Brian got into it over when he first meets 3PO, and he says he just walks past. He goes, "Well, I would actually say hello to him. He's my friend." And he's like, "All right, go do something over there with him then." And I think Mark kind of tried to warn us that it wasn't going to be what we were wanting, but then Disney took him to the re-education camp. Like, no, you can't be talking bad about any of our stuff.
Yeah, that's how I feel sort of about I'm sitting here trying to advertise the Veil War, and I'm thinking of all the bad things that I wanted, that I'm thinking about it, and not realizing that that's bad for a business, and it doesn't even affect anything that any of the audience would really think about. So it's not good for me to be saying that, and that's a standard operating thing. So even if you think something is bad, you shouldn't say it. If it's like especially for artists, you will think something's bad even if it's good. Like you'll still get like Ethan going, "Oh, that's pretty bad," and then you look at it, it's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? That's great." You know, so
Yeah. Oh, I got you. Oh well, it's me too. It's trust me, I draw like crap. So I'm like, I gotta draw fingers again and a hand. But you know, I still collected all the toys, of course, because I'm required to do that as a giant nerd. So um, all of but uh, there's one thing Ethan is correct on. The Last Jedi hurt Hasbro sales.
oh yeah, it did.
Yeah, I know they don't talk about that, but when Toys R Us went out of business, now Toys R Us didn't go out of business because of Last Jedi. They've had a 15 to 20 year downward slide since it became a private enterprise, private company, privately traded company that kind of led to their downfall. But they always had big tentpole projects that would come out that would help them out, and like Hasbro, I guess was banking a lot on Toys R Us sales, and they lost a lot of. Well, they were hoping to make a lot of money for them, I guess. So everyone kind of lost money with that movie,
Well,
and
you know what I feel bad about is Hasbro. I have no idea what's going on with that company.
well, they're under investigations now.
Really?
Yeah, I guess the Toys R Us closure was actually a lot more detrimental to their final numbers than they were letting on to their stockholders.
Well, I
And
mean, there's been a lot of shit that has been happening with Hasbro. Uh, that you can track back because Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro too.
oh yeah, with all the well, I'll let you. I don't really know the huge amount of that. My brother is a huge Wizard Magic guy, so he follows all that with them. But
Well,
I
you know, you got like they're possibly protecting a pedophile ring and that shit. So
oh yeah, I heard about that with who was that? Hambley?
yeah,
Who was talking about that? Yeah.
and then they're also like dealing all this SJW shit, which isn't profitable, and people are pissed about it. And there's not who would sell that? Who would buy that? Like, it's for kids, but how can you buy it for kids if you keep on hearing all this negative shit about it that would make it dangerous for kids to actually participate. And then that's just Magic, and then you're not even getting into like uh, Dungeons and Dragons, which people are getting pissed off about with SGWs like invading that territory too.
What's going on with Dungeons and Dragons?
It's just slowly becoming more SJW oriented.
Oh, see, I don't really despise the hard left like that. Like I, they've always been there, and we've always been. It's always been, a cordial thing when everyone comes together. You put politics aside and you have fun and your escapism. I just wish there
That's the problem. They're
was,
not anymore.
yeah, it's civil conversation that's becoming the lost art form now. Um, I mean, because trust me, there's a huge amount of them in the Star Wars community. There have been since the '90s. Um, there's a lot of because science fiction, can't talk. The Science Fiction Writers of America (SFWA), they've always had hard left people writing science fiction since the '60s and '70s, and you've always had underlying tones of it, and allegory to politics and stuff like that. That's fine, but some reason somewhere in the mid 2000s, it just went off the rails and decided we're gonna just push our ideologies no matter what the sales will say. And that's why when it started happening with Star Wars and the MCU and stuff in comics, I was like, yeah, guys, this has been happening in the YA community for a decade or two, and it went basically unchecked. And so when like I said, I wasn't in comics, and when I saw some of the people that Zach was reviewing and how they had been YA novelists. First, I go, oh, that's my first alarm bell, because my friend, I won't say her name because I don't want to get her blacklisted and or get her any kind of contract. She's been published multiple times by for her sci-fi YA novels. I think she's done like 7 of them. She's got like another 3-book series she just signed last year, and she's finishing up part of it. I can't remember which one, but she, like, I asked her, like, is that stuff still going on? And she told me, like, very much so, to a point now where it's blatant. And I was like, oh, before people actually tried to act professional about it, but I guess not even professionalism is gonna be wanted, because what's his name that blamed Ethan for getting him fired from Star Wars? Chuck Wendig.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read his stories because, like I said, I read everything Star Wars I can. Was not a fan of his writing style. He was one of these new age kind of, let's put new modern slang into Star Wars instead of the established stuff we've used. And I really didn't like it. It was like, whatever. I didn't care for it. And I didn't know how much of a crazy person he was online. And so when that kind of came out, I was like, because I knew, like I said, science fiction novelists are hard left. Many of them are, but you would try to add some symbolism, like Kieran Gillen wrote the Darth Vader comic book series, and he is just as hard left as anyone else there, but he doesn't bring that into his books. He wants Vader to be ominous and powerful and calculating. Now he did create a character that was, some say, checked off a lot of boxes for the certain requirements on a progressive character, but he didn't make that person like all good at everything. He put that person through a lot of hell through those books.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're like creating a character that's checks all the boxes. It just matters how you're actually treating them.
Exactly.
That's the annoying part that a lot of people don't seem to get.
Give me a second here. I'm gonna see if I can try a new mic that's maybe a little bit better than this gaming headset I'm using. Give me 1 second.
Totally out of comics for a long time. Yeah. I need to figure out how to place this so I can see it better. Got caught up with this. Modern comics always been inclusive. Yeah, modern comics have always been, well, even older comics have been inclusive. It's just people are making claims that they're not. It's also always been more adult oriented than people want to say. The whole child thing started happening around like the 50s and 60s, not before that. They were largely got their popularity from soldiers who went overseas and all like that. I wouldn't consider 1950s modern with comics. Modern is more like 80s. Even like 1960s is considered pretty not modern anymore. It's pushing the line for that because that's when the Silver Age began. Thanks, Riot. I think I'm messing this up a lot, though. Uh, Especially these feet, because I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. I can't hear you, Rezakai. You might have to change it in the settings, though. Because it might be still set on a different microphone. Okay. I'm always a bit quiet. I can boost the gain and whatever, but I don't know how to do that off the top of my head, so I'll just keep that in mind when I finally go and mess with the settings for this. I don't know what it is compared to Hangout. That's the problem with it. Now I'm going to move away from something that I don't quite understand on that. I think I've spent enough time on their feet. Yeah, I don't get to see movies in theaters, so I usually see them when, like, when they're pirated or when they become free, which means at least 6 months down the line, usually. So, but even if I could go see them, I probably wouldn't. Not Miss Marvel.
Can you hear me now, Jack? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I had to leave the room for some reason, the hangout room, and come back.
Oh yeah, it was probably trying to recognize the microphone.
Man, I spent so much money on this microphone and setup. I'm using this cheap little game headset from like 10 years ago, and it works better. Yeah, I'm not going to see Captain. I had never planned to go see Captain Marvel. I'm not a big MCU guy. Like, I might see like one or two of them, but I didn't see Endgame or what was it? No, it was Infinity War.
They were okay, but they kind of ruined it, the whole thing, because Spider-Man has a movie out like the very next month, pretty much, and it's like, okay, well, you kind of just ruined all the tension there.
Yeah, I'm not even that big of a Spider-Man guy. I was like, oh yeah, Spider-Man. Oh, is he rebooted again? Yeah. I was never been a big Spider-Man guy. I was like, the X-Men I liked, but they turned the X-Men into the X-Men Apocalypse was just cringe bad. I was like, oh, that's because they just made up shit as they went along, and for some reason Psylocke is like way older than she should be in the show. I'm like, okay.
What do you
I don't
mean?
know.
Psylocke is 30s?
Yeah, but remember that takes place in like the mid '80s when that because remember Storm is young growing up in I think Cairo, right? But by the time we get her later in the '90s, it's at least 10, 12 years later, right? Because so Psylocke's already like a 30-some-year-old person in Cairo in that movie. And I'm like, well, that means she's like 45 fighting in the '90s. I'm like, oh, you go, girl. Yeah, I don't know. It just was like, oh, all right, well, they're just making shit up at this point. So,
Well, what's the point? The that and Deadpool pretty much reset the timeline. So the
well,
fact that
I think they're purposely gonna bring back people. Like, okay, I do like uh, Fox's version of Quicksilver way better than the MCU's version of Quicksilver. Because he gets killed by bullets in the MCU, whereas Fox's has him actually like it's weird. Yes, Morox. Um, even though he looks more on point in the MCU than he does in the, I like him better in the Fox version where he's like just messing around and being a annoying teenager with powers that can actually get shit done, and they use him for like light comedy as they're overly dramatic. So I really like the Quicksilver version over there better than the one that got killed in. I don't even remember what movie they killed off Quicksilver in the MCU in.
it was uh the robot one, Ultron, with Ultron in it,
Mm-hmm.
which would be what? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Like I said, I'm not a huge into them that much as I am to Star Wars. I gotta jump off the mic for about 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Yes. Psylocke, are you referring to Psylocke, the real Psylocke, or are you talking about the actress who plays Psylocke? Yeah, Age of Ultron is what I was thinking. Because Olivia Munn is decently hot. That's who plays the what's her name, Psylocke in the in the Fox movies. Yeah, that's Olivia Munn. She likes to play around with being uh with doing kinky and sexual things too. So you can find a lot of stuff with her online, doing stupid shit.
Olivia Munn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't she dress up as a slave Leia like at every celebration?
She has. On, I know she has dressed up as Slave Leia, but I don't know if she does it at every single thing. Uh, but she does that because of the, or rather, she did do that because of the Attack of the Show thing.
Oh yeah, she was on Attack of the Show. I forgot about that. All right, I'll be one more second.
I am thoroughly lost with coloring this, I think. Okay, light comes in this way, so this shouldn't be in shadow. This should be shadowed. But yeah, I hope they keep Olivia Munn on for that role. Because I did like her on there, like that. Man, you can barely see what's the shadows on here are, so it's usually why I go darker. That's a mistake that I do, but
All right, I'm back. A phone call.
can't hear you. I'm kidding.
Oh, don't start that again. While you were talking there, like, 'cause I could hear, but I just couldn't speak on the mic, so I was talking to somebody on the phone. And you mentioned something. I really want to bring up a good point regarding shit, I can't remember now.
Olivia Munn, Psylocke. Olivia Munn, sex.
I don't remember now. That's something to do with the X-Men. It was
Oh yeah, I hope that they keep those characters when they bring them over to the MCU.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I do too, because cause I don't think they've ever shown Jamie Madrox, have they? In like a movie. He's not even a show.
Who is that supposed to be? I know the name, I just can't remember.
Multiple Man.
Have they?
Because
Yes, they have at one point.
all right, well, I always thought the Phalanx, what was it? It was after Executioner Song, but I think it was it was either after or before Age of Apocalypse crossover. It was the Phalanx virus or something like that. It was killing, like, and Jamie gets himself infected to it, trying to save some guy. And he slowly goes crazy. It was a really good bunch of X Factor issues I was reading. That was way back in the late 90s.
Yeah, didn't he get sick and then he like pawned it off onto like one of his clones and he was actually fine, or did he like die completely from that?
That's how they tried to bring him back. Like, originally, this woman, this crazy external mutant or something, I can't remember her name, she was able to heal it, right? And so, because you gotta realize, Jamie himself was a duplicate of the original person. So, when she goes to heal him, she goes, "I can't help you. Like, you already are a duplicate. I can only heal the originals." And so he dies in that issue. And then,
That's fucked up.
yeah, no. And then, like,
sorry, my powers don't work on duplicates. But wait a second, how am I not?
Exactly. And then, like, for years, they were gonna bring him back because someone, like, they had, like, I remember a scene where someone recognized his picture, like, "Oh, it's Jamie." And then, like, for years they just forgot, like, "Oh, that was a secondary storyline. No one really cares." I was like, "Oh," because I always thought it was cool how he would talk to his other duplicates, and the Phalanx virus in him was like changing him, where like, he couldn't pull in two of the because he always kept two duplicates out when he was really getting really sick, and they were always helping him. And then he tried to like suck them all in when he had like a bunch of them, and those two had changed so much while they were out of him, he couldn't suck them back into his body or some shit like that. It was really weird and kind of poignant. So
yeah, there was also the whole. It always brings up questions about how that all works.
yeah,
Like, there's the triple sisters or whatever, three sisters,
Three Sisters.
or is it six? Like they're clones of each other.
Oh, the White Queens,
Yeah.
cuckoos, whatever.
Yeah,
There was five of them, and two of them got killed, and then I think a third one just recently got killed. So there's only like two of them left, I think. Which, I don't know. I would rather them all come back to life and then just be like, I don't mind clones of other people. That's why I didn't mind like Matrix's thing. Like it's a clone of you, but it won't have the same emotions and things like that because of the experiences.
Yeah, and there's characters like I think it's Morph, who should like they should probably bring back, but they probably won't ever
Mm.
because everyone liked Morph and he was kind of cool, and he was also that kind of like character that was okay to make fun of and was like he was an outcast and all like that, and that's a good character to have.
Mm.
But in the end, he sacrificed himself for something.
I think eventually wasn't in the mid '90s DC did Crisis on Infinite Earths where they just reset
Mid
everything.
'80s, and they didn't reset off everything.
Okay,
Essentially, they did, but
yeah. I think
they
Marvel's gonna have to do something like that to
oh
clear up a
they've
lot of
been
these.
trying to avoid that shit like the plague.
Yeah, because like I remember like I was because uh, being a young teenage male at the time, I was reading Catwoman because Jim Balint, who now makes Tarot for the last 10 years or more than that now, he was making Catwoman, and I think he had one of the longest runs ever at DC on one single book when he was doing that. Um, he drew was told to draw panels of like the alternate universes that were going on in DC. And so there's just one scene where Catwoman, she starts seeing like the air around her shiver or something, and like she's in some mansion robbing something, and all the mirrors around her turn into like older versions of herself, and she can't figure out what's going on, and that's was them recognizing the change in like the multiverse or whatever. Thought it was kind of cool. So I figure they're gonna think of how much Marvel has destroyed some of the characters recently. So what are they
Yeah.
gonna do?
Well, there's options for it. They've done what do you call it? Where they went into a shell and then they all came back or some shit like that. That was actually part of the Onslaught thing. Where everything got absorbed into Onslaught and then they just brought everything back.
Oh, see, I had dipped out right before that happened because the Onslaught crossover was just starting up as I was going into college, and it's totally broke.
Yeah, I just barely remember it. But I've never even read it, but I just know about it.
Uh, but I mean, think about it. Like, if they're not, they killed off Black Widow. When was it? Last year, or something like that, and then turned Captain America into a Hydra agent. And
Yeah, that was idiotic.
yeah, of all the things to do, that was not smart. Um, I don't know when, cause he, when I think about what Ethan did, how he brought back Hal Jordan. That wasn't just a thing on spur of the moment that he did. Even though because he talked, if you actually heard him talk in some of those earlier videos, he talks about how they had contemplated doing it before, and he did it with, I think it was the New 52 or Rebirth he did it with. But I remember back in the 90s, they were talking about bringing Hal back a few times. And some people were really on board with it, and some just really didn't want to hash up the old characters, which I understand. These characters are 50, 60, 75 years old, and you're like, oh, I don't want to see the same guy over and over again. I understand. But it's like when you want to make cool little indie films and play it safe, make money for your studio film. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to pay the bills, and then try to do something else on the side.
Yeah, I don't know why people keep on saying that all the stories have been told with these guys. They haven't. It's just lack of imagination.
Like I would always wonder, like if ever Superman's ever ran into somebody that like knew other Kryptonians that could space travel, because we know there were some that were like able to survive, and if his father and mother were able to send him off, had the technology to just make a little homemade space satellite and send him off, send a baby off by himself, you'd figure that they would be technologically advanced enough to have entire colonies and stuff on other planets.
Well, with Superman, that's a bit hard. Because uh, it depends on the which canon that you're going with. Because they were a spacefaring civilization, and then uh, during the what's it called? During the modern age, Bronze Age, uh, the time when Death of Superman happened. The what is the guy's name?
The guy killed him.
No, that's Doomsday. One of the four Supermen. Not
There was
Cyborg Superman.
Steel. There was
No,
um.
it's a really easy one. It's like the Annihilator or something like that.
See him with glasses and the stripe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name though.
that guy is. He was created during the period when Krypton decided to become a isolationalist civilization, and he was in charge of preserving Krypton life by keeping Kryptonians on Krypton. So,
There you go. But you could still could have had other colonies like hundreds of years before he was born already shipped out there and being created, and then they just cut off their colonies and decide no, they're not. They're going to stay isolationists at that point. I
yeah,
always thought it would
that's
be a.
the other one is the Daxamites. The Daxamites are actually Kryptonians that have evolved on a different planet.
Oh, they're the ones that just got destroyed like 6 months ago, right?
I don't know.
Um, yeah, I think that happened. Now, were they smaller or are they just like regular people?
No, they were just like Kryptonians, except for uh, they had an inverse effect with lead and kryptonite, or just lead itself. They were poisoned by lead rather than they couldn't see through it.
Ah. Hmm. Which begs the question. I'm sure they met other races. I'm sure they started families and bred with other races. I'm sure there's other half Kryptonians that some that get all the strengths and none of the weaknesses.
Probably.
So, yeah, those are
I
other
mean, they
great.
already introduced it with the Daxamites, so
Yeah, yeah. So, I don't know.
I mean, there's a very good chance that all the other like super powered beings that exist in the DCU are actually variations of Kryptonians.
Uh, well, well, I could see some of that, like, except for Batman, maybe. He's kind of like a dude.
Well, I mean
He's not even.
aliens.
Yeah, yeah. Like, okay, now here's something else I never knew about, because when I followed Batman, what was it? It was when after Bob Kane died. I think the old contract said that 10 years after he dies, they have to stop using Bruce Wayne as Batman, or something like that. And then I guess they made Nightwing Batman or something for a while.
I've never heard anything like that before.
I know, but Nightwing became. Oh no, it was Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson became Batman. That's what it was.
Oh, that's
Yeah, well,
Nightwing.
Nightwing is Dick Grayson. Yes, right. For like a little while, I thought that's what happened.
Yeah, but well, it happened, but I mean, I'd never heard anything about Bob Kane making that
Oh,
stipulation.
I
Uh,
thought it was something in his contract or something like that. I might just be remembering old speculation from back then, but mm,
but Nightwing became Batman during after Infinite Crisis when Bruce Wayne was supposedly dead. Uh, but when he got like sent throughout time.
oh, so Bruce Wayne went through time.
Yeah,
That's weird.
he traveled through time, and he became a Bat God and stupid shit like
Oh,
that.
oh wow. Oh, all right. Well, there you go.
Yeah, they made a lot of mistakes with that because they had Dick Grayson kick Tim Drake out of being Robin and made Damian Wayne Robin.
Yeah, which I kind of like the fact that Damian Wayne and Bruce Wayne were Batman and Robin. You know, they're trying to think like Damian Wayne's not going to be really his son or something. He's like adopted or something.
No,
I'm not
Damian
sure.
Wayne is his son. It's his biological son via uh
Talia.
Al Ghul. Yeah,
Yeah.
and cloned, but still.
Well, that's fine. I read because Talia's in that silence is in Silencer a lot. I got that one off Zach's recommendation, and I've been reading every issue since. And Talia's in like every third issue.
Yeah, they
See
like
you right,
the
Kitty.
see you right, Kitty. They seem to like the League of Assassins. I don't know why.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with them, but they seem to really,
Yeah.
really like them and use them a lot.
I don't know. I always thought we kind of like. Do you remember back in the '90s when there was a lot of crossovers happening, and if there was a character that was new and hot, like they get offered to be coming to get another character to cross over with them with like Batman or Wolverine. Um, I remember that happened with Witchblade because I uh, I was a big fan of Image when it first came out, and when Image first started up, rather, and then like I was watching how Top Cow took over for which was still under Image, it was all posted under Image, but my turn was drawing Witchblade at the time, and they had her crossed over with did her like a little crossover one shots with so many other characters from DC and Marvel and other
Yeah, no,
places. I was
she's
like,
barely known, unfortunately.
yeah, which is sad. And
You notice who
oh,
picks up that style, though.
who?
It's kind of interesting. Is Kyle Ritter has that style in his art of Witchblade, and that
Oh yeah,
if you look at his art, it looks a lot like um,
his
the
line work and stuff. Has
the
that like?
no the claws, the metal claws and all like that. That's so reminiscent of Witchblade. Just the
Oh, I have to,
design of that.
I've never seen some of his original artwork. I'll have to check it out. I've only seen his color work on like over Ethan or over other people. So um, I always liked it. I followed with Mike a lot, like on his like as he went to different places and created Aspen, which I loved. No, Fathom. I loved Fathom, just because it had like a suspense aspect to it, along with the action. Um, I read, I collected all the variants, and that was right at the end of the boom when everything was going down the toilet comic wise, quote unquote, back then. And I was still buying that stuff left and right because I loved the artwork, I loved the stories, and I thought it was always kind of a shame that he had to leave. Remember, he got real sick a lot of times, and so he eventually left Top Cow and got Mark Silvestri got really pissed off at him. Um, he went back to DC, I think, is where he went. Oh, damn it, who is calling me now? I'm off the mic for a minute, man.
Okay. You did whose career? Aaron Rodgers. Who the heck is Aaron Rodgers?
Green Bay Packers quarterback. Been in the league
Oh,
about 12 years. He's a beast. He's also arrogant as hell. I don't really like him, but can't deny he's really good.
I can deny anything.
It's like Tom Brady and his de-aging solution that he bathes in every night. Man looks like he's 33 and he's 45. He's probably 55. So. Anyway.
Yeah, I have no idea about sports either.
Oh, see, I'm gonna. All right, Uncle Rez is gonna tell a story. So go ahead and start. This is where you're gonna fall asleep at because this is gonna take about 5 minutes. So, back growing up in the '90s and going in or '80s and through the '90s, I grew up with sports. My dad played a ton of sports. My brother kind of got into the Cincinnati Reds farm system, and so we were always around baseball, football, everything. And I was the kind of the oddball because even though I was playing baseball and other sports, I loved comic books. Some guys would say it too, like, yeah, that's it's kind of whack though. There, Rez, you're reading comic books. I'm like, yeah, well, some of us weren't blessed with the really good looks and strong jaws like you guys were, so we don't get all the girls. We gotta look at them in comic books. So kind of sucked, but I also was into anime real bad, and that one I couldn't talk about because my uncle was a big. My uncle was he's a huge anime fan, and he got me into it. And he's like 10, 12 years older than me. He got me into the 90s, back when all that really high action pack anime and sci-fi anime was going on.
What you're trying to say is your uncle was a weeb.
Well, I mean, he is Korean, so he
Oh, then he
kind
can't
of
be.
is. So, but he's got a little bit of legitimacy because he does.
I mean, technically he
How can
can't be because,
say what?
he can't be because Asian people can't be weebs.
I know that's the old thing. He really tries to purposely be weeb, though. I'm like, but man, you don't have to be. No, it's okay. I'm gonna just purposely love Naruto for no reason. Okay, man. Okay. So, um, and his sister's daughter, my second cousin, his niece, he got her into all that. She's a couple years younger than us. Um, so anyway, back to the '90s, I'm watching like Akira, Pat Labor, um, Tenchi Muyo, and all that stuff. And here's the thing: comic books is one thing, but like admitting that you're watching anime, that's a whole new level of patheticness to most sports jocks back then. Now, it's not nearly as it doesn't nearly have the stigmata around it now that it did back then. Um, so like as time went on, like I still stayed with sports, and so even to this day, I watch a ton of sports. Even though I usually got sports on in the background if when I'm drawing and or watching anime. So just because I like to keep up with it a lot. So that's just how I grew up around it and stuff like that. To my father's disappointment that I loved comic books and crap more. Then he saw some anime he thought was dumb. Then he saw like uncensored anime and he was like, oh well, that's okay. Oh, all right then. So it's strange things about really hot women doing lots of things that kind of ease you off to thinking something's dumb. So, um,
Oh, there's some
yeah,
titties in here. It's okay
yeah,
though.
especially for a dirty old man like he was. Like he was a stereotypical dirty old man dad. Like, yeah, bring some of those high school girls home, man. And my mom would be like, "Shut up, get out of me like that." Oh, it was great. It was always you gotta realize you got an old loud man and, a, and that's got my dad's family was real big anyway, so he had like 6 brothers and sisters, maybe 7 brothers and sisters. So there's always people in my house all the time. Um, just imagine that the beginning scenes of Home Alone when everyone's there and it's just a big mess. Basically, is how my house was growing up.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone around me likes sports, and my brother runs a trading card shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he sells.
Does he? Oh, good.
Well, it's sports cards mainly, but he also has like other collectible shit in there.
I was gonna say, does he have magic up in there?
Yeah,
Oh,
not very well, but yeah, it's there.
oh, there you go. Like I
He he doesn't have interest in it, so and he doesn't give me any authority to do anything with it, so it just sort of is there.
I was just like, oh look, this is expansion from 3 years ago. Huh. Still sitting in the area. Like when I go to like a local Walmart and they still have expansion packs and stuff, which I would not even know any of this if it wasn't for my brother, because he's still technically he is kind of huge into Magic,
Yeah,
and
that's also how I know I suck at selling things. Whenever he's like gone, he's like, "Yeah, you come and sell shit here for me." It's like, "Keep the store open for me." It's like, okay, I guess he doesn't pay me anything. I should be, but
mm.
uh,
You should just like have Magic tournaments there and just pay a little fee, and that brings some extra income. Set up some
yeah,
well, how big is the shop? Is it big enough to hold a couple tables?
not in no,
Oh,
like
okay.
well, the way he has it set up, you could probably put one table in there that could hold it. But if you move things around, you could probably do two or three. And if
Oh,
another little thing opened up, you could probably do three, four, something like that.
there you go. Oh, I like I said, the only reason I know that is like because my brother, he and this guy I work with, there's a couple guys I work with that are into Magic. There's one of them that's huge into Magic. He just went to some huge tournament they had in Indianapolis, like last week or week before last, and because we're 4 or 5 hours away from Indianapolis, and we're getting off work on I think Saturday night. And he's like, "All right, man, I gotta head out of here. I'm like, I gotta be back. I gotta be on the road in Indianapolis by sometime the next afternoon for some kind of big tournament. They had a Grand Prix or something they use. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what
Yeah, it's
all that.
something like that.
Yeah." And I was like, "All right, man." And he's all amped. They're playing for money. I'm like, "All right, man, go ahead, go ahead." I don't really get the I get it, I guess, but
Don't really get the appeal, but it's there, I guess. Yeah.
yeah.
And also with the whole another reason that I haven't even attempted to push it is because that whole thing that's going on with Magic to begin with. It's like I don't think I want to be culpable if something actually happens.
What's funny is that's how I found out about Hambly is when he got banned because my brother watches him, right? And so he watches a bunch of other Magic YouTubers as well. Somebody called the Doctor or the Professor or some shit like that,
Yeah,
and
something.
then
Yeah.
something I don't, and one or two other guys I don't pay attention to that stuff. But he called me at work, like, dude, they just banned this guy off YouTube or some shit like that. I was like, off Wizards of the Coast. Oh well, I guess it sucks for that guy. And he's like all crazy about it. And then like I come home and he shows up about an hour after I get off, and he's like, "Hey, check this is the video out." I'm watching it, and it's Jeremy Hambly, right, explaining how he got banned for life. And I was like, "Oh, well, that kind of sucks." And then he was like, "It's not just Magic. He got a DCPI ban, which is all Wizards of the Coast games." I'm like, "Oh, that's slightly overzealous,"
Which
you
is
know?
Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. But what's crazy is that I had been watching Zach months prior to this. All right, so because I would watch Zach, and I would watch um Bearing, and Zach got me onto Ethan because Ethan had like I don't know, like 9,000 subscribers, and he had just brought on Mark Wade for an interview. And Ethan's original videos were just like him and his family going to like some farm festival, or him in the car talking about the best time to buy fresh tangerine produce, real basic stuff. That was his old videos, and I would also watch his drawing videos, which I'm one of the people that actually likes sitting there for an hour watching him sketch out the entire perspective on everything and do all the drawing videos. Um, so when Hamley got banned, I really didn't link them up together to the same thing, but I guess like they knew Bearing and Count Dankula and all that, so they talked to each other about it, and I was like, holy crap, this is the guy that my brother showed me from Magic that's now coming on Ethan's streams. What the hell? And so
Yeah,
I
that's
just took
true.
off from there.
He's linked up through the kill stream.
What's the kill stream?
It's Ethan Ralph's stupid little shit thing. Uh, Ethan Ralph was part of Gamergate, and he started doing videos. And I think he did, written articles at one point, but Yeah, he was part of Gamergate, and then he started the Kill Stream, which is basically just a live stream. The Kill Stream is, you know who Andy Warski is?
Yeah.
He's pretty much the guy who started doing that shit first.
Oh. All right. Well, that's
Basically,
cool, I guess.
you come on and you have people yell at each other for
Oh,
whatever.
like a blood sport thing.
Yeah, it's actually considered the original blood sports thing.
Oh, which I mean, I actually prefer watching that instead because videos and commentary from one person on their perspective is fine. Because some people like, I don't like watching blood sports. Well, don't watch it. I mean, they'll go back and make their own videos later on, or they usually should if they're good at their own at managing their own brand. But good debate fuels good conversation.
The problem with it is that it's not actually good debate, in my opinion. So,
Oh, it's not. Oh,
well,
oh,
none of the blood sports shit is good debate. It's pretty much just idiots yelling at each other.
oh.
So,
Oh, well, as someone who's played high school or has played little league and bantam baseball, I've seen that every time. There's something strange when parents of their precious little babies watching them play baseball and imbibing large amounts of alcohol happen on a hot summer day.
I mean, if you like that type of thing, good on you. But I don't like that people try to be like, this is highbrow. This is really intelligent. This is debate. It's like, no, you got like 5 people yelling at one dude.
Uh,
And,
uh,
and a lot of people are like, they make good arguments. No, no, they don't. They make a lot of stupid arguments and then they use peer pressure or some shit like that.
uh, well, see, I can never really give in to peer pressure on like us on the internet. Like none of the unless it's like people paying me, then no, I'm not gonna bother with it. Like I guess it's also with like I lost some Comic Skate friends because of this. Because I told them like I guess there was a lot of drama going on a few months ago with like what are they called, the Roar Campaign guys and John Del Ross and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I told them like, yeah, well that's good for them guys. Like I'm gonna stay with the normies that know about Comic Skate, even though I've been here since the beginning, because I prefer just talking about good stuff and throwing out facts every once in a while just because to help people learn stuff. And they're like, well, did you support this person? I was like, sure. Like they dox people. Oh, well, they made a mistake then. Sucks for them. I don't really care. That's the point. And I guess that's where people got upset that other people were fighting and I didn't care about it. I'm like, yeah, you guys are making yourselves not look that professional by doing all this infighting. I don't care. I'm gonna be just looking at the things I want to look at and talking to normies outside of Comicsgate and see what they know about it. And for the most part, no one knew all that Twitter drama going on. They were like, they heard about Comicsgate, about a bunch of people that at first they thought were a bunch of white supremacists that turned out not to be true. And they're a bunch of people just trying to make comic books. And that's what everyone, the normies I would talk to, described it almost every time. No one knew about all that crazy Twitter stuff and all extra drama on the side that was getting people upset at each other. And to be honest with you, I'm glad because that would just make the entire movement look dumb. So I didn't really bring it up to him. I just said, oh, well, we got about 250,000 people in it now just on YouTube. So you're going to have some different personalities. And they're like, yeah, you probably will. So, because a buddy of mine, he's one of the co-creators of that Sporkman comic. I don't know if you were following or knew about the Sporkman stuff going on.
I know about it. I think that needs a little bit more work on stuff, but
Yeah. Well, Chuck is usually the guy that does the Twitter for Sporkman, but him and the other two the co-creator of Sporkman, I actually do a podcast with once a month for Star Wars action figures. He's a huge Star Wars action figure guy like me. He creates he actually has a 3D printers and a huge amount of resin molds that he used to make aftermarket diorama parts and stuff like that for figures.
That's cool.
Yeah, he does. That's his job now. He quit his regular job and started doing that like 2-3 years ago just to do that. And he says he's always swamped with orders. He had to buy. First off, he was able to buy good 3D printers. He has 2 of them now, just from the money he made from those. just to keep up with the orders that he keeps getting because he doesn't have time to just sit there and pour and cure resin over and over again. So I'm like, geez, Eric. So, but I mean, that's what he does now. And so we're all hardcore Star Wars action figure collectors, and once a month we get together and put a little podcast like what we're doing now, just sitting here driving about new stuff that came out and what we want to see and stuff like that. But Chuck, the guy owned, but when I can't remember who it was, but one of the other ones we've heard of that are more the smaller publishers that are doing some of the other projects. He got signed on to do. I don't think Antarctic.
What's the other one? There's another A one.
Antarctic, not Alterna, not Antarctic. I thought it was W.
Well, I mean,
I want to say
usually pops up. It's like an A usually. So.
Yeah, it's not White Wolf. That's all my D&D stuff is White Wolf coming back to me. Wicked Comics? I can't remember. Something like that. And they're going to publish that Sporkman Goes to Japan and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is, yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's kind of a funny little comic book about Sporkman. I don't really, I'm not really huge into, it's Sporkman, yay. He's doing it it's kind of like a spoof on superheroes, so it can be kind of cute. If I was ever going to do a superhero comic, I would make like the greatest American hero's granddaughter, and then have her be a huge sports fan, and so no one would read the comic at all, and it would fail.
I don't know. Sports comics work in Japan, and there was a bunch of them back in like the 90s.
No, you are correct. I actually read a bunch of sports manga. But a superhero sports comic might not be, because sports comics, like manga sports that I read, are based of slice of life. Like I read like the Rookies, which ended, and a few others. I can't remember their names off the top of my head.
What about Kuroko no Basket?
Volumes. There was I don't know. It's okay. Is there supposed to be a lot of shipping in that manga?
I have no idea. I don't follow fan stuff.
Oh, so like, I don't know. But someone told me that, and it kind of was like, I don't really want to have to bother. Because I don't mind shipping to a point, just as long as it's not the main interest of everything. Like, ship a couple characters over on the side. Sure, go ahead. I don't care. But like the Rookies was more about. Okay.
I think it's all male characters on there. So.
Oh, well, that doesn't mean there won't be a lot of shipping on there, man. This is a manga we're talking about.
Yeah.
On Rookies, it was baseball, and their entire team had got suspended for the year for getting in a fight in the national championships. And so they came back the next year and had to work, and like no one joined the team at that school, so you had like one guy had came back from the previous year, and he was trying to get his friends to come join the team, and it was like they were pretty bad. It was basically, it's kind of like the Bad News Bears, but in manga form. So it kind of reminded you of. So if I were going to do a superhero comic, I'd put a lot of sports into it. Like, I had this thing where I was going to make, it was going to be superheroes, maybe a little bit of supernatural stuff going on, in sports, 3 S's. So I'd make like some witch that's like 450 years old, but she loves sports, and somehow and her roommate's a superhero or some junk. And even though they both look like they're in their 20s, the one girl is, and the other girl is like 490 years old. But she loves, like, she's in love and has crushes on all like real old men sportscasters from like the 70s and 80s and 90s. And so she's in love with like Ed Edinburgh and John Madden, Pat Summerall. I think we crashed out on YouTube.
Oh, shouldn't be.
Oh, there it goes. I was just lagging. But yeah, I just thought it would be hilarious to like, because you have like, all these really good looking people, and like yeah, they're really good looking girls too. And there's and like the other roommate dates a really good looking guy, but have like the main character just kind of this goofy 23-year-old, 22-year-old girl who's like almost 500 years old, but she loves all these old men with wrinkles and hold microphone like, all right, guys, today you're going to see the Cincinnati Reds take on the St. Louis Cardinals, and that's who she's dreaming about.
Yeah, there's a lot of like I don't know how popular that type of stuff would be in America, like to sell all that stuff. But I don't see why it wouldn't be popular.
Well, it'd be like a more of a fantastic slash humorous thing. Like that was just like a off the top of my head. I was thinking when I was first came up with that, I was like, you know what? Everyone wants to turn all these because this is back when they were making Thor in the female Thor. I can't remember her name, but um, and I thought, well, if I was gonna make a female superhero character, I'd make a pair of girls. And I'd make one of them ancient and for some reason goofy and into really old guys. This way, you could technically have an age gap, but yet not really.
So you don't
So
actually have to deal with any of that drama.
yeah, I mean, like she's into like 65, 75-year-old guys, even though she looks 23, but she's really like almost half a millennium old. So there you go. Yeah, and so, but that would be like a little side quirk to her. I actually did want to make some actual like stories regarding like how she keeps her power, and like her roommate is actually friends with somebody that turns out to be villainous, stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna set it. If I would have said it to either of the big two, it would be DC because I think they would get the humor of it a little bit easier. And
Yeah, but there's no way that they would publish it. DC.
why not?
That's the problem. Is that everything, like none of this stuff is publishable by them. Well, it's publishable, but they'll never do it because they're focused too much on superhero stuff.
Yeah, true. Well, who knows? Maybe I'll make it for a little side project. A little. When I make my project in like 10 months, I'll try to do it as like a little ash can. You can get it with it as like the story of such and such. Because my my big high fantasy story I want to make is coming along nicely. I wrote a bunch of the I sketched out a bunch of the drawings of the capital city of Zenith, where the ice elves come out of when they first go on that one shot story I'm making.
Mm.
I'm sketching out panels, sketching out character designs and things like that. I That's why I was talking about drawing earlier because eventually I just got so tired. I was like, oh, I gotta stop. So, but it's coming along slowly but surely.
Yeah, even if I did draw, I wouldn't want to be doing the drawing on any of my ideas simply because my style doesn't fit it.
Oh yeah. See, I agree because like I can't really draw high fantasy stuff, but I would like to like help the artist along of what I'm thinking about while I'm writing the story. So I draw like thumbnails stuff out.
That's what game character creators are for.
What's a game character creator?
You know, just go on like City of Heroes or DCUO, create the character via that.
Well, that's the character, yeah, but I would like to show
The city like
how,
that.
yeah, I would like to see like environments too, like how things should be laid out and stuff, and because I was very meticulous about like my maps. I like to make sure that like people, if I decide to make it, that'll be a perk I'm gonna put in. Would be like an old like one of those cloth maps you get with old Ultima Online or whatever, or EverQuest when you first got to like the collector's editions. So you could see like the trail from the city to what they went through to get to the area where the big battle happens and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's one of the things that I have to learn how to do is do world not world maps, city maps. World maps I'm good at.
yeah, I can't really do city maps that well. I mean, it depends, like, because they're radically different now than they were hundreds of years ago. Like, I used to look up, who was Thomas Jefferson? Who used to design cities? I think this is before he became president, or maybe after. Who designed University of Georgia, if I remember correctly.
Well, the reason
Can't.
why it's hard for me is because I like to get everything at like the base level and then build it up naturally. And learning all that stuff is all that help isn't all like easy because you have to learn like several layers of what people are thinking and doing.
Hmm. I because I would put like a little sketch. I'd put like a you know what I would do? Man, that's a great. Thank you for the idea. The make a little like a little sketchbook as a perk where you can see like because in the story you're not gonna have very many different races. You're gonna have elves and orcs battling each other, maybe some humans as like some as like liaisons or whatever. But put in like all the different races and little write ups on them as little sketches. That'd be cool for world building.
Oh, I should show you what I've written up for my tabletop RPG that I was working on for a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it uses the same background mechanic of the universe as the superhero thing, where there's a the ultimate like truth of the universe is that it's a is it it's like a void chaos type area, but there's beasts inside this area, and each of the beasts are either like a destroyer, a neutral thing, or like a creative entity. Like it's a world in itself. And then
Okay.
if chaos like gets into the creature, like if they're attacked or something, that's where magic and stuff comes from. And
Hmm.
like I've designed an entire world, and well, I was so caught up with the creating for like elves and shit like that I haven't gotten fully into like explaining like all the shit, but I got like 4 or 5 different sub races of elves, and then like 12 different gods that are like well laid out.
Oh, okay. You
Like
might.
it's funny because I made the death god in otaku.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I based.
he
Good.
likes all the life forms, and so that's why he doesn't like killing them, but he collects them and shit.
Oh wow. Like I made Gary Gygax the god of a version of him, the god of my gnomes, because he's always trying to be quick witted with his information and things like that. So, because I have gnomes, trolls, giants, and like 3 different types of elves, plus fairies, and I also have a few unique races that I created myself. One's like a big, kind of like like not just a generic lizard man race, but like I told you about this. How it's a race where like in some of the paintings, scientific paintings, where they show like as dinosaurs evolved, their scales slowly became like feathers, and they show like a partial feathered, partial scaled dinosaur in a painting.
Yeah.
That's what this race would be like. Lizard man with like feathers and shit coming off of him and stuff like that.
Oh,
And
nice.
then my favorite race, I wrote all the lore because I wrote all the lore on these on their cities and on their gods and how they got to where they're at civilization wise was the Kaum, which is like this. Imagine they're giant. They're even bigger. They're twice. Their normal size is about a third, twice as big as a hill giant. So they're just massive. Um, and when the giants got rowdy, they were one of the few races that could hold off the giants in battle. Um, and they were. All right, the Easter Island big stone
Yeah.
faces. All right, let's say if that stone face just rose up out of the ground, you'd have a scaled body to go with that stone face. They're big, huge stone guys that are almost don't have really a lot of emotion. They don't really have motion in their features, but they're originally very pacifist. They don't believe in war and things like that, but they do believe in defending themselves. And so they're very good lined with humans and certain elves and like that. And I remember when I created their god is like they're already 20 stories high to begin with, right? So they're massive. Their god's a huge version of them. He's a big, huge dude, but he created him and he's destroyed. Like all that's left of him is like the Easter Island head, right? Stuck in the middle of this forest, and all around him, these hills have like big parts of rocks and hands and fingers reaching out of him. That was his body that shattered into pieces. And and they go and take a sabbatical to visit him, and like sometimes humans will come along and stuff, and so they put the humans in like their little in their palms of their hand and walk with them, and then they're only as big as his head would be, the and so a human would be like the size of his eye, and basically he's basically based off the all-knowing trash heap from Fraggle Rock, is what he is. And so they would go. Again, they're a very pacifist race, so they have a very religious aspect of nature to them. And so they often go to him for guidance and for information. And he talks to him sometimes. Sometimes he's very tired because he's having to sustain mental like communication with other priests and stuff that are trying to speak to him from different parts of the realm that he lives in. And yeah, it's just a ton of backlore that I wrote just for this. Remember, like you, is going to be a tabletop game that I'm slowly putting into an actual story form.
Well, the only reason I stopped working on it is because, again, I realized that world building isn't going to do anything, and I couldn't. There was no point in working on it if I couldn't get the art, because you want art with a tabletop game book. So
Yeah.
I could never pay for it, so I'm like, whatever. I'll just let it go, I guess.
Yeah, see, I was gonna save up, and I was gonna try to buy some game book, like set up and put art printed up into a game book and things like that, and see if someone would try to publish it. But I I was gonna do it as a Kickstarter, and then I decided to put it on hold because my job changed, and then decided to try that whole responsibility thing again,
You
and it
shouldn't
blew up
do
my
that.
face again, and so now I'm back to trying to get it done, and I'd really like to see something of it come up because like I wrote thousands upon thousands of years of lore for each race. Like I set up to where these are the benchmarks of each timeline of each race's civilization, and some would work together, some would never meet each other. Some of this it was a massive amount of work.
Yeah, I know. I was going for about 10,000 years of history, and I was just setting it up. I don't know. I think it's like 10, 20 pages for just the elves, and I was just doing sort of brief overviews of them. So
Nice. No, your elves like are they like nature based or are they high magic based or what are they?
there's different kinds. Because that's what the gods originally created, were the elves, and like humans, like came into the world, uh, uh, like from a different world, from our actual Earth.
Okay.
So the elves are just like the humans of this realm.
All right. All right.
And then they evolved kind of the same way, but because the gods were um, influencing them by themselves, and uh, then there was like things happened, and then there was a decree that the gods could no longer interact with the elves by some of the high gods. So things started breaking down because of stupid shit. So
Hmm.
there's like they different ways that the different gods like interacted with the humans and how they were able to do it, because once they realized what was gonna happen, um, or and how the elves were acting, some of the gods were like, yeah, these people, we don't want to have anything to do with them, and they broke off and took like different clans. And so then they broke off and uh, there's like 3 different clans from that. So there's like 5 clans if I remember right.
Of elves?
Yeah, and
Huh.
each of them have a different type of like worshipful like gods and stuff like that. How they
Oh,
understand all that stuff.
I got you.
Like
Yeah,
one
mine
is
are.
blood elves.
Hmm.
One is like snow elves, or which would be considered like high elves in most people's ideas of what elves are. One is like uh, sort of like Roman style.
All right.
Yeah,
What are they
and
called? Are they like legionnaires, or like what are they called, legionnaire elves, or what are they? Do you have a name for them yet?
I have a name for them. I just don't remember it off the top of my head.
Uh, oh, yes. See, mine was a little bit more basic. Mine was based upon elements. Like my elves were like fire elves, ice elves, uh, wood elves. I decided not to make straight up wood elves. The wood elves became brownies and fairies, basically. And then,
Yeah, the wood elves in mine are psychotic religious zealots
oh wow, that's
that
awesome.
sort of like are more in line with uh, Christian dogma rather than like other stuff.
Huh.
They're they like they're isolationists too, and they hate like and they're like their religion is mainly based on plants and wood stuff like that. So they don't like people coming into the woods or anything like that. So
I got you.
and their
Yeah, mine.
god is dead
Oh wow.
because they killed him and ate him.
Huh.
It's fucked
Jeez.
up. It's like it's their mythology and what they believe has all been like morphed due to that shit. They carry around. They have a the symbols of their like religion are his bones,
Oh wow.
and they don't realize
That's
that they're like triune based religion.
they're a what based religion?
A triune based religion, like they believe in like Trinity type stuff.
Oh, so who would be like with the major factions would be like the major players of this triumvirate?
Yeah, it's
Whatever.
really weird, uh, because you have different level of gods interacting. There's the uh, there's like the 12 gods that exist in the universe in general, and each one of those have their own world. Then there's the next level of gods under that who were in charge of like this particular world. There's 3 of those, and then those guys created another 12 gods. And those 12 well, there's 3 gods, and then there's a few sentient races. The elves themselves are have their major god, who was put in place specifically for that, and her whole shtick is basically balance. So
Hmm.
you have like uh, a balance type thing on each of them. So and there's 12 of them, and each of them are for the various are specifically for helping handling with teaching the elves like magic, hunting, uh, household things, because they had to go through and actually teach them everything.
Oh, okay.
Because the elves were stupid as fuck. Like they literally almost died.
See, that's how I'm making my gnomes very tribal and very not very advanced technological wise. So I haven't find giant mushroom. Well, not giant, but like gnome-sized mushroom guys, where these giant like fungus mushroom dudes are just a very tribal. Not even a tribal. They're not even like a really sentient race too much. Like a hive of mushrooms that live in rocks. And so the gnomes and the mushroom dudes, because the mushrooms are like basically like Koopas, but like not Koopa. No, was it the mushroom troopers from?
Nah,
I
it's
can't
the
remember.
Mushroom Kingdom, and they're called Goombas.
Goombas? Might be
The
kind of like a
mushrooms in Super Mario Brother are Goombas, but they're not.
yeah,
I don't think they're the Mushroom Kingdom. They're
yeah,
toadstools.
yeah, not toadstools. Well, well, they're these ones more like a big fungus that grew off a tree kind of looking guy. So they're very like craggy and weird looking, and they fight against my gnomes all the time over like the right to control these little set of hills in one of the little side continents, and you just have these just entire little clans of gnomes and these mushroom dudes going at it with spears and uh spears, shields, and like occasionally have like javelins at each other, but nothing very advanced because that made them both very very set back. Where because the steampunk to me the steampunk gnome theme has been done a lot, and so I wanted to make them a little bit different.
Yeah, it has been. That's like I when I try to create something, I try to create something from like I put it in there and then I just let it adapt through building the world rather than trying to go for anything in particular. And so like if there's a character in there that would operate in such a way, then that's how that character will act rather than me going, well, I want a character that becomes a night elf. Like no, that's not how that works. It might accidentally become a night elf, but and that'll be a cool story, but I don't go out of my way to make any particular character into something.
Yeah, like my are you gonna put any secrets into your story? Like
Um
stuff that can be figured out by the reader if they're really attentive or have really good speculative skills and or believe in ancient aliens.
there's just a lot from other stuff. Like if it's tabletop or the my superhero thing, then there'll be like a lot of things that you'll be able to pick up. If
Oh, okay,
the Veil War, not so much, because well, not planned right at the moment. Because
I gotcha.
yeah, it's uh, like I said, I didn't write it, so it's kind of hard to say. Yeah, I'm gonna put that in there. But if it gets to the uh, second issue, it'll probably start having like crazy stuff like that in there.
I gotcha. Yeah, I plan to put lots of that in mine. Not in this original one shot. You're right. 'Cause I don't want to convolute the reader to where they're trying to look for all this other stuff. But like, if I get to like make the rest of it either as tabletop or as additional stories, then I'm gonna put some of that stuff. So if you read the first story, you can go back and figure stuff out from the overall lore of the world, for that world building I love doing. Oh crap! It's 3:30.
This
All
thirty.
right, Dragon. I gotta get ready to roll, man.
Okay, I'm done. I think close
Oh,
to
nice.
almost done.
Pull back. Let me take a look.
Yeah, just pull back. It's almost done. Just need to do a little bit more shading on there.
Oh, look, that's awesome.
Yep.
Nice. I need to get my camera hooked. Like, I bought a Blue Yeti mic. Bought this expensive set of headset. Bought an expensive, well, not really, a really good webcam. Can't get any of it to work. Just boomer
Yeah.
intensified all over here. I'm using like an old mic I use for my PS2 right now.
Yeah, I got a whatchamacallit, some a headset headphones, and I don't like headphones to begin with, and I couldn't get it to work, so I'm like, fuck it, I don't care.
Hmm.
And I'm
I need
back with
to,
this like dollar, like these headphones cost $1, so
oh, there you go.
yeah, it works
I need
well
to get.
enough. So
Yeah, I gotta get one of those. I might do like to Naple does and get one of those big arm swing things, because then so I can just like talk. Cause I want to like show me drawing stuff and sketching stuff.
yeah,
But
those are useful. I
yeah,
couldn't do that though. So there's no place for
yeah.
that type of shit here.
Digital all the way, yo.
I just don't have a place for it. Even with digital, I couldn't do that very
Oh
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got massive. So
I also just don't want to clean my room.
you degenerate.
Like, who the fuck wants to clean a room?
This is true. This is true. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna hop out. I will be back in a few hours. I gotta go run to the post office before it closes and get some stuff mailed out. And I will. I'll send you. It was send me a text or what's going on later. If you decide to do anything.
Well, I'll probably be done in like 5, 10 more minutes. With this.
Well, who's to say you might not start another stream if it's slow tonight? Who knows? Who knows?
All right, I'll talk to you then.
All right. I don't know. I'm just messing around. All right, man. Talk to you later.
All right, peace. Hello, Pekin Pekin. That needs to be like. And then one last here. Okay, and that's about it, right? Yeah? No. Still got a little bit more to do. Right here. Contiguous. Go here. Go select. Edit. And I am done. I think. Maybe here. A little bit more work. Maybe. Yeah, just a little bit more. Okay, I am done with this. Fit on screen. Well, except for background. But background I'll do later. Okay. Thank you for stopping by and watching, and I am done for today. Have a good night. Bye-bye.